Well, welcome to the podcast, everyone. And we're going back 1 year and 2 years. This lovely group of ladies, there's only two of them here at the moment, there's a third coming here, all got together, six of them actually, and wrote a book called Lady X. And it is still selling around the world. It's six very different stories, all about ladies, all about their journey in life, the good, the bad, the difficult. And it's all about helping ladies become better and go through all their trials and tribulations that they do. And we are sort of around the world. So usually I say we're from Denver or we're from England or we're from here. This time, this is an international one. The only plus is last time when I interviewed these lovely ladies, there was five out of the six. And as someone said to me, it was like herding cats. We couldn't keep control. Everyone was talking over each other. And we had an absolute ball, which I really enjoyed. But I'm going to welcome to the podcast at the moment, Beverly Holt and Faith Rodriguez. How are you?
Good.
Really good, thank you.
And how are you, Faith?
I'm doing good.
That's awesome. Now, I'm going to let these two ladies introduce themselves for the people who are listening. Faith, if you want to go first.
Okay, so my name is Faith Rodriguez, and I am an international psychic medium, energy healer, and author.
Yes.
And what was it that you asked me after that?
And so what do you do? The people who are listening, a lot of the authors come on and they write a book about a passion, but they also have a professional life outside of that.
So what I do is, like my chapter in the book, is I help people that connect with loved ones that have passed. I help people to heal, as with the energy healing part is tuning into what they're holding on to, where they need help and guidance. And I help with that and teaching them different tools that they could use to walk away to continue to heal themselves in their life. And I can communicate with animals that are living and past. So I help people with that, but different things that can help to promote healing in a very different way.
And what part of the world are you in at the moment?
I'm in Newcastle, Delaware, on the East Coast in the United States.
Staying away from the hurricanes, we hope.
Yes, definitely.
And now our next guest isn't actually very far from me. She's only an hour and a half away on one side of Sydney to me in Australia. Beverly Holt, how are you?
I'm really good, Rob, and enjoying the cool spring weather here in Sydney. And
not for long.
I know. Fingers crossed, or as they say in France, croisez les doigts.
Yes, true. So what are you doing yourself these days?
Well, since we left France 2 years ago, we thought we were only going to be here 3 months, and now it's nearly 2 years. And during one of the 16-week lockdowns here in Sydney, when we came to visit a friend and we planned to drive up the coast to Brisbane and say hi and bye to everyone, just have a holiday, we decided to buy a van and convert it into a camper van. So we're just going with the flow, and we thought while the world is still in chaos, we'll just, there was no planes at the time coming to Australia, and there was lots of lockdowns and you couldn't book into hotels and so many restrictions. We thought, well, let's make a vehicle into a home and drive it across any borders in case we want to need to escape lockdowns. And we've also got our accommodation with us, and it's been absolutely amazing just being in nature and connecting with nature and having digital detoxes, because a lot of the places we go are so remote. There's no towers around, and we can just be. And in my Lady X book, my 2 chapters, one of them was about teaching transformational writing, because I've been journaling since I was a young child. And I find that so therapeutic. And when I did psychonursing, generalness, and then went on to healing, I've helped so many people just through writing. I've found with all the tools and techniques that I've gathered over the years from lots of brain entrainment courses and superconscious courses and so forth, that journaling is by far the best thing that has given profound results to people, because it's done at their own speed, and it doesn't cost anything unless you want a coach like me, but a lot of the work I do is voluntary as well, and I'm just keen to help people to get out of the rut. And as you know, Rob, the last 2 years everybody has changed on one level.
Hugely, yeah.
People have gone through a lot. Some people have gone through pain and suffering and loss of all different kinds, where other people have reinvented themselves and are truly thriving. So I've been busy helping people on different levels to either continue on their new journey, or, well, every day is a new journey. And Lady X actually traveled to many countries in our book, so I feel a little bit like Lady X going from state to state in Australia, because it's such a huge country.
Yeah.
And her work was all about healing and self-healing and self-discovery. And even though I've been in this industry for years, I feel there's always something to go deeper, and I've just been going deeper and deeper and deeper. And now I'm in the process of writing my own book on self-love, but divine self-love. So nature has taught me how to go much, much deeper.
Fantastic.
And I also went to St. Bom, and in the cave of Mary Magdalene, I saw an apparition with my friend Isla of Mary Magdalene. We were so like, oh my goodness, because every time she moved an arm or did something, we both seen at the same time. And she gave me a message, Mary Magdalene, or I should say Saint Mary Magdalene, to write a book on self-love. And this last 2 years, I've experienced so many deaths. It's been hard for me to process a lot of stuff. So I've been working on myself to let go of grieving, so I can help people even more, even though I believe it's only our physical body that dies, and our soul or essence, whatever you want to call it, goes back to the universe. I think, on a human level, we still need to go through the process of that grieving as well.
Oh, 100%. You're talking about disappearing, as we call it in Australia, to the outback. For those who don't understand, Australia, if you're looking, say you're looking at a map of America, and someone said 80% of the population was on each coast, and in the middle, you only had 20%. It's the best way to describe Australia. You can go 3 or 4 hours away from a major city, and there's nothing. There's what we call the outback. There's bush, there's dirt, there's not mobile phone coverage. There's a lot of small towns. Actually, in one part of a place we call Broken Hill, which I'm pretty sure you've been to, Beverly, on the way into Broken Hill, it is not quite in the centre of Australia, but it's not far from it. You can, on the lookout coming into Broken Hill, it is that vast, you can actually see the curvature of the earth. So with nothing, there's not a mountain, a tree for as far as you can see. So somewhere to to go and experience is brilliant. And when you were talking before, Faith, about energy, the Indigenous Australians do talk about energy in the bush. They talk about energy from flowers and from animals and from past spirits. And they're very big on that. And there are places that are very sacred to them that only males can go or females can go. And it's because the energy, it's something true to their culture. And when you go out there with them, people will tell you it's a unique experience, because their energies, as they call it, merge into be one, which is part of everything that's around them. Going back, it'd be probably 3 years when you started the journey, because it's been 2 years since you released the book. Faith, how did you end up with these 5 other lovely ladies writing a book with what some people might say is a very dodgy name, Lady X?
So I was introduced to Marav. Another friend had recommended for her to work with me. And so that's how I actually met her, is we started to work together. And at the time that we met, then we were working together, she was actually starting to write another book.
Mm.
And so she was working on another book with other authors, and that was Stay Home. So when she decided to, when she said her idea with Lady X, and asked me about doing it with her, then I was like, yeah, I thought it would be really neat. And from there, then I met the other ladies.
And what was your chapter all about?
So my chapter is about what I actually do in real life.
Yeah,
So Lady X is she meets a guy, and in the chapter he brings in an energy healer, and so then they do like an energy clearing, and then that helps her. Then she talks about releasing energy. So one of the things that I really love to focus on when I'm working with my clients is helping them to release energy. So every time you have a thought, feeling, an emotion, it's energy. So when you hold on to that, it can create energy blocks, and that's where people could feel thrown off of their balanced self. And so in the chapter, then Lady X learns about releasing energy and doing some steps that she can do to do that.
So if you look back when you wrote it, and then look at the 3 years now and the turbulence and everything's been turned upside down, do you think you would write that chapter now differently?
No, because in the chapter she's learning about she's receiving an energy clearing, and then she's learning about how to release energy. So those are things that even still when I work with people is helping them to release the energy. So whenever a lot of people don't know, like you clear out your phone or your computer or your refrigerator or things like that. So in the chapter, then she does learn how to release energy out of her body. And so so she does steps to do that. So when the readers read that chapter, then that's something that can help them to do that. So that's something still today that I help people to do, is teaching them how to release energy. But I actually am in the middle of, I created energy releasing cards that I'm in the middle of doing. So I'm excited about that, which will help people, which goes back to Lady X.
How would you then, well, there's a lot of people that haven't coped that well during the COVID lockdowns all around the world, because people need people, and some people were put into isolation, and there are people out there who don't need people, but a lot of people do. They need that interaction. They need a human touch. They need to be able to communicate more than just over a phone. So they've said that anxiety has risen hugely. And I still see it down the road where people are still overcompensating for COVID, that you don't have to do as much as you used to. If someone came to you now and they've got a high level of anxiety because they really haven't coped as we've come out of this pandemic, what would you say to them and how would you help them?
So it would depend on the person, because if somebody's having symptoms of anxiety, there's going to be a root cause. So what I would do is tune into their energy and go down to see what the root cause is. So the root cause could be something. So I'll give you some examples of people that I've actually worked with anxiety. It could be something that they've experienced in their childhood that now when they had an experience, it kind of triggered them to have those symptoms of anxiety. So when I tune into the root cause of the anxiety, then I send healing and help them to release the root cause, and then teach them steps about releasing energy, which would be around the root cause. So then they can start to heal and have less anxiety or cure the anxiety.
Someone
So
actually
what
said,
they would do, okay.
Sorry, we're having a bit of a delay here because you are on the other side of the world. Someone actually said to me that what COVID did was highlight a lot of people's issues. It didn't cause them. They were always there.
Yes.
But the long time of solitude, not being able to see family and friends and loved ones, brought everything out, like the bad energy. If you use your terminology, the bad energy started to come out and the good energy got pushed away.
The thing is for COVID, there was different things that happened. For some people, it was something that brought about great healing and positivity. And for others, there was a lot of loss. So whenever we have that time that we have for ourselves, then that's whenever it's actually a blessing, because that's whatever, if you want to or not, you're going to self-reflect, things are going to come up, and it's actually a good thing. So anytime that anybody actually goes through a day and they have something that comes up from anything that they've ever experienced, then that's where I would say to them, which, you know, I would call the energy releasing, what I call energy maintenance, is releasing energy around that. So anytime if somebody has something that, like say with COVID, and people are at home and they're not spending time with other people, it's a good time for them to go within, whether if they want to or not, and self-reflect and for healing. So in that situation, when I've worked with people during the time of COVID, is really going within, writing down things that they need to, that they know pop up. So as you go through your day, you're washing dishes, you're driving in the car, you're watching TV, you know, folding laundry, and you have things that pop up from things you've experienced that has related to trauma or, you know, anger, worry, jealousy, things that can throw off your energy. It's good to tune into what's coming up for you and then work through it. So what I teach my clients is releasing energy around it. So they could say, you know, I release the root cause of this feeling, or I release everything negative that's coming up for me at this time. But when people do that and they set the intention of releasing the energy, like Lady X, then it helps you to go through those layers of the root cause, and it promotes healing.
So Beverly, were you roped into doing this book over a nice wine in the south of France, or you were how did Marav get you in?
I'd met Marav probably about a year or so before this book came into fruition. And I'm also friendly with the editor and one of the co-authors, Heidi DeLove.
Yes.
And Heidi knew about my experience with St. Mary Magdalene, and she called me out of the blue and started chatting, and she said, we're writing this book and blah, blah, blah. And I used to organize holistic events, and I was going to promote the book called One. So Heidi had been the editor and Marav was the producer of it. And she'd written a chapter as well. So I was in the periphery going to you know, promote that book. And then out of the blue, Heidi rang me and said, do you want to be part of this book? And I'm like, oh, no, that's not for me, not, you know, working with strangers and, you know, writing a fictional book. And she's like, no, but you can talk about self-love. You can talk about your experience. It's going to be really different.
Yeah.
Let me put you back in touch with Marav. And I spoke to Marav, and Marav's really keen to have you on board. And then, you know, after chatting with Marav, it was like, okay, you know, come along, meet the other ladies, see what you think, and then make your decision from there. There's no pressure. So I was gently guided into it. So yeah, and it felt good. So we had a lot of fun. And not all of us had a glass of wine. Some of us had a cup of tea.
Yes.
And but it was a really fun group to be part of.
So what was the part of the book that you wrote about?
I took Lady X on a journey actually to Nice, and she went from there to Mary Magdalene's cave, and she had a profound experience there, you know, like trying to find the cave. It was a true story about myself and my friend Isla trying to find the cave, and we nearly gave up. And then, you know, to Isla's horror, I said, right, I'm going to Google it, because we really, you know, we don't use phones. We thought this is sacred space. And we'd been past the cave like so many times, and Google took us directly there. So it was brilliant. And before that, in the chapter previously to it, I dragged her out of a dysfunctional relationship with Victor, who in the first few months was all gooey-eyed and loved up when she'd met Faith. And, you know, the relationship was getting sour and he was getting more and more possessive and so forth, and she decided to make the break because she realized that she needed to do some more self-healing. So it went through, you know, the struggles of how to end a relationship. And
so is that based on real life experience?
Yes.
Thought so.
because I used to, before I met my current partner, always have very jealous, possessive partners. And they were always a nightmare, absolute
So that's
nightmare
what you
to,
attracted.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I was very successful in business and in all areas of my life except relationships. So, you know, in Wales in general, the men are very jealous and possessive. So, you
Really?
know, when I left Wales and realized, oh my God, people are different, you know, to girls going out on on their own, I'd be like, what will your husband say? What will your partner say? You know, so I soon learned that it was normal and healthy that you could have girls' night out and weekends
Mm.
away with girls or girls' holidays. And yeah, it was a different new experience for me.
Is that in Wales? Is that a cultural thing, or is that what's passed on from the fathers to the sons?
It was, I would say it was cultural, you
Mm.
know, very cultural, because still now there's so many jealous, possessive men there that I know from my nieces, and I believe
Mm.
I'm here to heal our family lineage so that we can stop attracting jealous, possessive men, because I'm one of 6 and there's 5 girls and we all chose very jealous, possessive partners. And some, you know, abuse comes in many forms, whether it's
Mm.
physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. So,
I mean, you still get them all over the world, but when you say that's what a majority of the people are like back there, it is changed. I suppose in different cultures they don't see anything wrong with it. They see it as just the norm. And I think if to me, if you're that jealous and possessive, you're the one that's insecure, not them. And you know, you've got to trust your partner and whatever your relationship and whatever that form takes. You can't be that way. It's not healthy.
yes, well, you have to look at your role models, and
Mm.
if your parents were that way, because it wasn't till years and years later I worked out that my father was jealous and possessive.
Mm.
And there's a saying in Wales, probably globally, barefoot and pregnant.
Mm.
So my mother was kept pregnant so that she wouldn't want to go outside and, you know, stuck at home all the time with loads of kids.
Mm.
So that was his way of controlling her. And
I think
he,
they use barefoot and pregnant a lot in Australia, but not in the possessive way. We still
yeah,
have, I do still see cultures here in Australia of men that can be that way. But the barefoot and pregnant is certainly not a possessive and jealous term in Australia. It's quite the opposite. So,
oh no, I just meant that was his way
yeah,
of controlling her
yes, yeah. Oh,
to keep her pregnant.
I think you still see that today
Yeah.
in many ways, in many ways. So if you looked back now, and I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Faith, would you write the book any differently 3 years on?
Um, well, I guess life is a journey of transformation,
Mm.
and I believe in things happening in divine timing,
Mm.
and the same as faith. I took people, I taught them transformational writing. I
Mm.
actually took them to a school for the weekend and a workshop, and they did that. And everything I taught is relevant for today. And I believe when the student's ready, the master will appear.
Mm.
And
True.
that book will have longevity because the information all of us wrote in it will continue to be useful.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And with the other ladies, apart from Marav, because I know you do, everyone keeps in touch with her. Uh, do you still keep in touch with the other 4 ladies?
Not on a deep level, but Martina is always on Instagram. So
Mm.
whenever I click on, I see her post come up, and you
Yeah,
know, we'll drop each other a message. And she did actually interview me as well for about energy work and
yeah.
manifestation and things like that.
How about you,
And
Faith?
The same as Beverly. I see Martina, Marav, of course, we talked to her. You know,
Yeah.
I think all the ladies have we've all had different experiences loss and different things
Yeah.
throughout this time, or even since the last interview. So I think probably because of that and our own journeys and things that we're doing in healing, that we're not connected as much as we were before.
Do you think it's because back then you all had a common purpose, which was the book that brought you together, and now our life gets in the way,
Yeah.
and you all go off doing busy things, but you still got that connection? I mean, here you're 2 years on, and you're still connected in one way or another.
Yeah, I think we all developed a very good bond. And I think when you make close relationships like that, meaningful relationships, it doesn't matter if you see each other for a long time, because I know I could call Faith out of the blue and we could exchange a healing, for example. It's like we've never been separated, from our weekly meetings. So I think when you establish really deep relationships, and that's what we did with the Lady X group, we're all there supporting one another, watching each other's backs. And, if any of us were to reach out, needed help, we'd all be putting our hands up and there in a flash.
Now, Faith, I'm going to ask you a question. Outside of your own chapter, what's your favorite chapter?
Oh, let's see. I mean, there's interesting stuff in every chapter. There's good takeaways in every chapter. Maybe
Is there something that jumps out of maybe one of the chapters?
I love Heidi's. I love the ending chapter. I think is something that was really good and really closed the book. I think because Lady X has went through this journey. She's went through this healing. She's learned all these different things, and so she's in a better place and has balance and is doing really good in her life and in her journey. I think maybe probably the last 2 chapters. I think those would probably be my favorite, I guess.
And what
But I
about
really
you,
love
Beverly?
them all, so that was hard.
Look, well, as you know, and Beverly knows firsthand, I don't pre-rehearse any of the questions on this show, so you never know where we're going to go. What about you, Beverly? Is there anything that jumps out or you learn from any one chapter?
I did, like Faith, I thought all the chapters were very interesting. I learned something different from each chapter. And Heidi's last 2 chapters, one of them actually brought us all together because we all wrote a passage in each of them. So I used to work a lot with abused ladies. So I wrote a passage as if I was going to a women's shelter and giving them a talk, and then saying, look, I was in your shoes once, and now look at me, here I am, to bring them positivity. But because I don't have children and I'm surrounded by children and I work a lot with children, I liked Martina's chapter because she did a really profound exercise where every night before you go to sleep, you have to get rid of any negativity from the day at school. And you'd pass something, it could be a little pebble, for example, but you pass it around. You get everything off your chest with absolutely no judgment. And then the next person, so if there's a few siblings, you all pass it around. And then the parent or parents would say something as well. And she's got a beautiful ritual that goes with it. And that really warmed my heart. And I've sent it to so many parents who've been struggling, with children when they get bullied at school and various other things that happen in life. Even if your child is very stable, it's still a beautiful ritual to do. And, it just warmed my heart listening to it.
So before we wind up, I'll go back to you, Faith. What is the future holding for you? What are you going to be doing now? Any new books or anything else you're going to be releasing?
Yes. So I have the cards that I mentioned earlier. I have those that I'm going to do. So those are going to be energy releasing cards. So whenever people would go to, you would hold them and set the intention of whatever you would need. and then you would go to the card that you feel guided to, and that would be something that would help you, that you would be guided to release energy around. And then I'm also doing a spiritual development book, helping people to enhance their intuition.
So where do people find you if they wanted to look you up and speak to you about energy healing?
So I'm on Facebook, Medium Faith Rodriguez, and my website is faithrodriguez.net.
Awesome, awesome. And now, Beverly, you're not necessarily stuck now in Australia, but you seem to have fallen in love with us and don't want to go anywhere. So what's the next 12 months going to be for you?
At least the next 6-7 months will be more traveling in the outback. And I'm also working online for programs with someone in America, doing de-stress programs to help people, carers, nurses, doctors, going through burnout symptoms and working on prevention of burnout, because we both do a lot of meditation and working a lot with children, because Jeff Granville is my partner, and his son had leukemia 8 years ago, diagnosed when he was 4, and the doctors needed to give him a lumbar puncture, but they found a mass. It all happened within hours when he became sick. They found a mass on his lungs, and they said if he had acupuncture, a lumbar puncture, the anesthetic would put him in cardiac arrest and die, and if he didn't have it, he would die.
Wow.
And yeah, and a nurse seen him head to head, because by the time he'd gone to his mother's and the mother seen the child and took him to the hospital, his face was blown out, he couldn't open his eyes. And poor McCoy, was only 4, and he was hugging him, and a nurse seen how much she was caring. And then he asked, okay, because death was the only option, what if I calm my son down and help him stay still while he has the lumbar puncture? So it was the first time ever in the world this was performed.
Yeah.
And he went on to have a nephrectomy like that a few years later as well. And Jeff helped loads of parents and children in the Ronald McDonald Home for 4 years. And then we became friends, and because of my psychiatric nursing background and working with crisis situations, and he asked me to be his partner. So we both know that nurses and doctors and carers are in huge demand, and they're all burning out, as are many other professions. Since I've been talking to family and friends here, I can only say from Australia and the people I've spoken to and my friends back in Wales and family that, there's a lot of people off with burnout, and it puts a lot of pressure on the other staff. And I really don't know where all the people have gone, because there's loads of restaurants looking for staff, you name it.
Yes, come to Australia. There's plenty of jobs.
Yeah, but where are the people who used to have those jobs? Because as we're traveling, you can do any type of jobs. And
you can.
Yeah. And as you know, Rob, because you've been traveling in a camper van as well, there's people we met, there's people of all ages, there's retired people traveling, there's young people with young families taking their kids out of school, people of all ages. They're just looking for a new life. And
they are now. They are.
And it's just been amazing,
Well, it's been an absolute hoot listening to two of the most loveliest ladies out of the book. It's fantastic. You've shared so much with us. The listeners are going to absolutely love it. I will put in the show notes for everyone where you can get in contact with these two people. And I can tell you now that they've both got beautiful souls, beautiful energy, and you can see why the book's been such a success. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And as we say at the end of every one of our podcasts, have a groovy day.